Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CPD Group podcast. We have a special guest with us today. This is Marianne Mills from 2M Training. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it must have been a bit of a journey to get here, to be honest.
It was. I've been to worse places, but it was a nice journey, and it's nice countryside up here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the country, actually, isn't it, Northamptonshire? But yeah, thank you very much for making the effort to get here. That's super stuff. So let's get straight into some questions, if you don't mind, Marianne.
Yeah.
Tell us what inspired you to become an educator and then ultimately to create 2M Training.
It's a bit of a story, back history. Cut long story short, I worked in the care sector many moons ago, did a psychology degree, wasn't sure what to do after that. Then I was in and out of lots of jobs within the care sector. In the end, then working in foster care. And then they asked me if I wanted to do some training for them. And I thought, that seems quite good, but I don't really feel that confident to do it. And it was at that point in time in my life, I'd met my now husband, and then I looked into doing a PGCE because I had the view that I wanted to maybe train carers, because that's what I wanted to do. So I'd done my psychology degree, then I did a PGCE, and then I went straight into teaching. Had children. That, I was going to say, messed things up a bit, but it made it slightly different journey. And then I did work in schools and colleges, and then I fell upon teacher training. So where Harvey Price went to college, just up the road from me, National Star, I got a job there teaching, and I loved it. And what I saw was that it gave me a chance to use my psychology and the teaching, and to be able to develop people. And then the pandemic hit. I was freelancing, and then I thought, actually, other people are doing this, and I can do it my way. So I set up. And that was it, really, from there.
Brilliant. I mean, I was reading your website for 2M Training, and I see that you've got like 16 years experience of, teaching and being a trainer and things like that. So what have been some of the most defining lessons that you've learned along that 16-year journey?
I think it was funny. I was reflecting on this because I'd obviously worked as a trainer for the council, which I loved. I loved doing that. It wasn't for long enough, but... then I worked in schools and colleges, but what I found was you're really limited in terms of what you can do with the students. There's so much you want to do, but it just literally becomes about teaching the subject. And I was feeling there's so much more that I wanted to be there for. So for me, what I've found is it's not always the subject you're teaching. So I've taught a lot in care. Yes, it's the subject, but what you tend to find is it's how you transform people and how you develop people. So for me, that was one of the biggest things, is creating a safe space for people. If they feel safe with you, they'll tend to learn more. Because for a lot of people, when I do the teacher training that I do, I get them to go back to look at their schooling. And it's quite a moment for people when they go back, because they realise why they've maybe been scared of education because of what's happened in them. And the other thing is just believing in people. It's amazing. I think when you're teaching adults, we forget that sometimes nobody's said well done to them for a long time. I had somebody that I taught, and I don't know how old George is. I always say him because he's just my star. He's 60-ish, I'll say. And he said to me that he'd never had any education since before he came to the classroom with me. And he said he was really sceptical about it all. I helped him with the assignments, and he said he did it to make me proud.
Wow. That must have been some moment for him.
Yeah, given that he'd been at school and the teachers used to put bets on who'd end up in prison.
Really? Oh, dear.
Which is just heartbreaking.
It's not exactly inspiring, is it?
Not really, no.
No, not at all. No. So in terms of, creating those safe spaces and, the kind of the attitude you have towards education, I imagine a lot of that's to do with your psychology degree.
Yeah.
So how have you used that to shape the way you design and deliver your training sessions?
what I say to a lot of people is that, and we talked about it earlier, is that training's not just about the subject. It's a whole lot more than that. And it's actually about knowing about the psychology of human behaviour, really. A lot of it's about, as I said, about building connections. It's about building trust and about people being safe, really. The other thing is when I actually design the programmes, it's about making it so that your learners want to engage or they can engage. So often I see it that it just becomes an information dump, which doesn't allow for any engagement. So even when I'm teaching people how to teach that have been doing it for a long time, I'm not saying they're not knowledgeable, but one of the biggest things that come out is that they don't put anything in for any engagement there. It's just that, just giving bit. And understanding the whole of that journey as well. And that you have to create that space. But a lot of that is to do with that initial assessment and getting to know the people that you're teaching. So sometimes sometimes I'll speak to people beforehand if I can. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot that you literally have to do on the job while you're there. So some people will say to me, you talk a lot, but you listen a lot as well. So I will ask, are we talking a lot? But I'm doing it in a way to be able to get stuff back from them as well. So when I'm asking all those questions, it's about trying to find out even just things like I was diagnosed with ADHD 5 years ago now, I think. I'll find out from people that their child's got ADHD or autism, or they'll tell me something and then they'll say, maybe I have. And I'm like, well, it's highly likely, or you may have those traits. So it then gets them to start thinking about what works best for them. And because of my journey, which I'll talk about in a bit, it's helped me to see things in a completely different way when I'm teaching.
Right, excellent. I mean, what you were describing there, kind of the listening and giving information at the same time. I mean, I've heard you describe it, training as a two-way door.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing you're referring to when you're interacting with your learners, the two-way door sort of method?
Yeah, I think that's probably why I don't completely throw e-learning out of the water, but I do know that for so many people, it does need to be two-way. And so it's about even just sort of somebody saying about what their fears are. So when I'm having those conversations, I share my fears. I failed 2 of my A-levels, and people are like, what? You're a teacher? And I'm like, yeah. I actually look back now to realise probably why I went into teaching was probably because of, and why I do it well. I hate saying that. Why I do it well is because I do it in the way that I wish I'd had it, without even realising that that's really what I wanted. But I think it's about seeing that it's a partnership, and that's not just with the learner, it's the organisation. Because what I do find quite shocking is I'll go into places to teach and no manager will ever ask me anything. Right. Or even when I've freelanced and I've gone in, and I will never see anybody that'll ask me, how did it go? What did you find out? Literally, very rarely. I've dealt with a company a while ago. It was a CCTV company. They didn't actually need me in terms of wasn't their guy's full-time job. But a lot of what they do is training, because they train people to use their equipment. And they realise that actually if they can teach the end user better, that's actually going to save them time and money, because they haven't got to keep going back and answering telephone calls. Absolutely. But actually what we did afterwards, so during the training, he said, guys, we'll have a meeting about this afterwards. And then he followed it up afterwards to see how they were using that training. So I think, and the other thing is that safe space. But I think organisations, if they work with their trainer well, or training company or whoever they use, to make it work for them. Because if it's not meaningful, you might as well get that money and put it down the drain. It's a
tick box exercise.
It just becomes a tick box exercise. And I know I sound like a bore to people when I say it, But I'm like, it's true. It does become that. And people have that attitude. My husband was saying his work, it's the same. He said he does fire training, or he's to do with all of that. And then when the alarm goes off, people don't actually know what they were meant to do with a particular sound, but they've had the training. But it was just e-learning and
just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Oh, unfortunate, isn't it? So, you're talking about the different kind of environments you go into training, different types of companies, all of this kind of thing. What kind of process for designing those courses do you go through that kind of, ensures engagement but also getting the information across as well?
Yeah, it's that getting the information across but making it stick.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when it's just talked at people. So what I often say with my training is there's people that want to show off what they know and people that want to share. So I find, and we can probably all relate to that even at school or, and we talked about I think it was accidental and incidental trainers, that they will just end up telling people stuff. But I think one of the biggest things is making it relatable.
Yeah.
If it's not, people just switch off. So even when I've got maybe 12 people in the room, very, very quickly with the initial assessment, I'll have asked them, what do you do? So somebody even said to me the other day, I'll never use icebreakers, they're a waste of time.
Right.
I said, well, and that is, or could be your initial assessment. And from that, I find out what industry they're from. And I have to ask all the right questions so that I can make it relatable. So when I'm asking them, I don't know, about assessments or something, I know the sort of assessment or why they might be doing that in their industry. So that light bulb moment, it goes from this is nothing to do with me, which somebody said to me once, I'm going.
Really?
We don't do any of this in my workplace. I had to very quickly try to find a way to make it relatable. But a lot of that is using analogies as well. I tend to use a lot of analogies because for different learners, for some people, if you can use an analogy, I think I did when we spoke, I don't know if I did, with the sweet wrappers, or the packets of sweets.
Yes.
Yeah, I meant to bring them on, I forgot. Just doing that, many people say to me, oh my goodness, when I explain aims and objectives, using a bag of sweets, they're like, wow, I'm not embarrassed to make something that's quite complicated quite simple.
Yeah, that's
if it means that somebody walks out the door and they've understood it. I don't care if it's a song, an analogy, or whatever it is. The aim is that they get it. And I think when I did my degree, my lecturers loved it if you didn't get it. But to me, I've not done my job right if they've not got it. I think the other bit is I give me to it.
Yeah.
That's what I found hard with teaching was you kind of couldn't. Although the best teachers and the most relatable ones are often the ones that do give of themselves. And the other bit is having formative assessments throughout. So it's that bit of asking questions or doing things throughout to find out if your learners are where you want them to be. It's not waiting right till the end for the quiz, which you will give, but it's giving the other bits so that you know if it is sticking or not.
So you're really good at adapting your training style for the various different people that are in front of you then, just to make sure that, you're kind of covering all bases, so to speak, for all the various people that you've got in attendance.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's got to be the best way to do it, So in terms of, that kind of accessibility, one of the elements of our framework, our accredited framework, is accessibility. So, when you work with training providers and you work with business owners and looking at their training courses and helping them to develop the various bits of training that they're doing, how do you find is the best way to introduce accessibility to them and the various things they can do to make their training courses accessible to others?
That's where I would really encourage them to do that initial assessment. So sometimes I have to do a bit of education on that people do learn in a different way, which is quite worrying. But many a time, we talked about it earlier, that you get different sectors. That I work in the construction industry. Those people do work with their hands, and by their own admittance, they don't like doing maybe classroom learning, let's just say. For many of them, they'll have, school may have been difficult. A lot of the time you'll find that actually they probably are neurodivergent. And so if you teach in one particular way, which might be e-learning, it's just not going to work for whatever reason. It might be they're dyslexic. The care sector, again, the e-learning's used a lot, and it ends up scaring quite a lot of people as well. And I'd also get them to ask those learners what works for you.
Yeah.
And I know it might cost a bit more, that you might have to have somebody in face-to-face, but ask them what works for them. Do they want to do interactive things? Do they not?
Yeah.
You know, I've worked
true value from it.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with the fire service a lot, and straight away, the training manager, who used to be a teacher, said to me, they won't sit for ages. You're going to have to break it up. So before I even went in there, I knew what was going to work and what wasn't going to work, because of that they're not used to that. I also know that working around when their breaks are, because they have set breaks, the fire service, and they will not move from that at all whatsoever. What else have I got here? Just giving feedback throughout. And I would urge, like I said, any organisation to speak with your training provider.
Yeah.
So that it is that two-way street, because I know that I will actually spend time going into businesses before and even watching what they do, so that when I'm teaching, I understand. So I've even gone out and watched a breathing apparatus training with the fire service, so that when I go and teach them, I'm not a firefighter. Of course I'm not. And I have sort of, a lot of the firefighters were understanding that I know my stuff, but I was able to say, look, you know, I don't do what you do, but I am aware, but also tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me what your challenges are. One of the challenges I saw that was when I went out to watch one of the sessions, twice they got call out while I was there.
Right.
And that's reality.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality of it. So I think it's about being realistic, and organisations being realistic about what's going to work, what's not going to work. And the other bit that's not talked about ever is that if somebody has got a disability, they are actually legally allowed to ask for adaptations.
Yeah.
So for somebody that's dyslexic, it may be that e-learning's not going to work for them.
Of course. Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know to ask.
Yeah. Well,
I'm the not very popular person that says that. But
so in terms of, you know, the training that you do, and again, in various kind of different environments that you do it in, beyond the knowledge and skills that you impart to people, what else is it that you would like them to take away from your specific training sessions?
I think number one is that, it doesn't really matter what it is I'm teaching, that I empower them. That's one of the main things. It doesn't matter what I'm teaching. I love it when people walk away wanting more as well. I always say to the people that I'm teaching to teach as well, if somebody leaves wanting more or asking more questions, you've done your job really well. If they're just looking at the watch, or I've had people say to me before, I was dreading coming to this, but actually I forgot what the time was. I'm like, oh, great. That's really good. That's really good. I forgot what else you asked me now. Well, their takeaway from it.
Yeah.
Just empowering them really to go and do what they do. I love what I think anything that you're training, sometimes I sit there and think what I've done is out there.
Yeah.
No matter whether it's care stuff or whatever it is that. And so if you can empower people, or people have come back to me and said, after you taught me, you gave me the confidence as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the difference between somebody that actually looks at the psychology of working with people. It's not just about that information dump. It's about that and everything else. So they feel better about themselves. So that, I mean, I'm that nerd that goes everywhere, and I just seem to bring training and education into everything, which is like, even when I was at the dental hospital, I did actually teach the dental nurses there, but I was having a conversation, because I just think if people truly believe what they've learned, I often talk about the difference between training and educating. Mm-hmm. And people are like, it's the same. And I go, not necessarily. Training is potentially just telling people what to do. Yeah. Whereas the educating bit is the why behind it. Yeah. So if you anticipate people are going to ask you why, then that's, for me, that's the big difference. I was that irritating person that always says why. But when people are asking why, they're actually understanding, why they're actually doing it. And I think that's why with training it, when it's just training, people don't get why. So when I'm teaching lorry driver trainers, often they will use videos of accidents and stuff like that, which are often the best thing to do because the person actually understands why they were doing it, rather than just being told, you've got to do this.
It's putting it into context for them, so
absolutely,
they understand and it sticks a little bit better.
Absolutely, because otherwise it's just like being told. The same with my kids, I could tell them to do stuff, but usually the best way round is either they make a mistake, or I'll explain to them why. I'll say, I'm asking you to do this because of X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. When we met previously, before like you've come to join us here. So, in that meeting, we were talking about your course development, and helping other organizations and trainers write their training courses as well. We got onto the topic of AI, didn't we? And now,
hot topic.
Yes. And it's a big topic for us here at the CPD Group because we have a lot of people using AI to develop training courses and submit them to us. And we're finding, they're not quite using the tool correctly. So AI is becoming unavoidable. We know this, and it can be a very useful tool. So how do you personally use AI when you're looking to develop training with or for someone?
For me, it was accidental. I'm going to admit that straight off. I think because I was a trained teacher, I come at training in a different way, really. Because I think the issue we had, and we talked about earlier, is that often when people do become accidental or incidental trainers, it does become about gathering information up and then just shoving it out there and not really thinking about anything else. Mine came because I met somebody through somebody else who is a firearms trainer who said, I need you to help me. And I thought, I don't know anything about I don't know anything about firearms. And he said, yeah, but I think you could help me. So anyway, it turned out in the end what he wanted was he obviously knows the stuff about the firearms bit, but he wanted to be able to keep the learners more psychologically safe. Because he said, when you almost become desensitized. Yeah. So I was like, okay. And I panicked because I thought, he obviously knows that I can help him, but I don't really know how. This feels like it's out of my depth, but I wanted to take the challenge. So in the end, what I said to him was, can you just write down on a piece of paper what it is you want? Because this was a bespoke piece of training I wrote for him. Yeah. Tell me what you want from it. So he wrote it. I then put it into AI and said, can you give me some objectives from this? And it did. And then from that's when I realised that, because obviously I know the psychology of it and I knew all this stuff, but I wasn't really sure how I was going to break that down because it was something bespoke, but I didn't want to turn down the opportunity. So, from that then, what I used AI then it came up with the objectives based on what he said. And then I asked it to help me create a programme, but it was in partnership. It wasn't just AI doing it for me. Yeah. That's why I felt confident doing it, because it was then saying to me what it felt would be best put in there based on what I was saying. Then what I would do is any bits I wasn't sure about, I would read up on, or, and then speaking to the guy about what he wanted it, what he didn't want in it. So I did that then. And then I thought, actually, this is great because it's saving huge amounts of time that I can then use to actually build the course. Even things like creating pictures. Yeah. So you can't really find those sort of pictures. So I was able to create images for visual learners on the PowerPoints that would help them. And then I had an idea of a course that was a step up from the AT that I deliver. And I'd been going around the houses for 6 years. And then I thought, I don't know how to create this course. So I took another course, put it into AI, said what I wanted in it, said what I didn't want in it. And it just took that anguish out for me. Yeah. And then from then, I've then had people come to me. I've got an insight program, ADHD course. Somebody had written it. they then said, we need your help because we need to get it CPD accredited, which just so happened to be with you. It was a bit painful in a way because I kind of wish they'd come to me at the beginning. Because if they had have done, we would have worked out what the aims and objectives are, which is the first thing you need to do. So I kind of had to work a bit backwards with it. But yeah, and one of the biggest things I find is that if people are accidental trainers, they don't know about the aims and objectives or the assessment bit. So what you can do then when you're using AI is to say what sort of assessments you want. It then can look into the sector as well and find out what works in that sector, which I don't know about some sectors. So I can do a little bit of research and it just comes up with the best possible solution, but certainly doesn't replace it. That's somebody that knows their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen a comment you made, on one of your LinkedIn posts where you called AI a powerful partner. I mean, that's a good terminology to use, to be quite honest, because it is a powerful partner. It can be there to really support you in developing it, but it should not be there to replace your expertise, should it?
No. And it was only when I had that conversation with you that I thought, are people really doing this? Again, I think because teaching and educating is what I've done, it would be pretty horrific and it just wouldn't work. If you're in front of a class, it just wouldn't work. And I have seen over the years the rise of people being good at their stuff, then starting up with academies, which then seeing, because of COVID, kind of accelerated it. People going, I know, I'm just going to write a course. And I cringe every time people say that because I think, I bet it's not a course. I think it's just actually something that you've... And then when I then hear that people are just literally putting it into AI, and because even what I will do is I will come up with, or I've been given a program, maybe I'll put that PowerPoint into AI. I will then make sure that the aims and objectives were in there. I'll then say, can you make sure that there's an assessment? Well, it knows anyway, but make sure there's an assessment for each objective. I'll have that, and then I will have a lesson plan template that I'll have agreed. It's either mine or theirs. And I'll say, make it fit into this. But invariably, AI doesn't do what it should do. It doesn't put it in the right boxes. And so if you're not sure about what you're doing, and I'm sure you've seen examples of it, it doesn't work. Or it doesn't have the right language in it. It uses AI type language.
It does, yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Doesn't flow properly at all.
So I know that that's just part of the process, doing that bit. And so then I will look through to make sure, does it all work? Does it all sound right? Does it all tally up? And then hopefully then when you get at your end, which I know that one went through recently, it works. So
fantastic. Now, we kind of covered a couple of the questions that are moving forward there. So we'll jump on to another one. So looking ahead, how do you see AI kind of evolving and changing the way trainers create their courses and the learning experiences that they're offering out to their students?
I think it will, if used correctly. I think, and now I've had quite a few people approach me now to say, well, can you help me with this? I can get it out there quicker for them. If people use AI and use it correctly. So whether it is, I'm now looking into teaching people how to use it properly so that when it gets to your end, it's better. And it makes it quicker for them. It makes it quicker for them as well. And it's done better. Essentially, it will be done better because I know that, unfortunately, when people don't get their courses accredited, I try and explain this to people, and I've done a webinar on it, that sort of the bottom tier is just somebody that's put something together that's selling you it. The next level, you've got CPD accredited, and then you've got the qualifications, which not everybody needs that. And we've had a discussion about that, not everybody needs that. And that's absolutely fine. But I think if you've got, like I said, if you've got programs that have got the aims and objectives in there, it does make it much, much quicker to get it out there. And it just makes it, what I'm saying, nobody knows everything. AI doesn't know everything, but it's going to know, like if I'm working with a sector that I don't know so much about, I can make it better and more meaningful and more apt
Yeah.
For those learners as well.
What is the biggest bit of advice you would give to people about using AI in course development?
Like we said, use it as a partner. It sounds like I'm selling what I do, but I don't care if somebody doesn't do it with me. I really urge people to know about the whole teaching and learning cycle, at least, even if they don't do the whole, trainer qualification, at least know about the teaching and learning cycle, because if you don't, it just literally, you're not going to understand that whole bit of when you're putting it into AI or you're using it, why you have an aim, why you have an objective. As I say to people, if you don't have an objective, if you're selling to somebody, no matter who it is, or you're selling, whether it was me going to a company and selling to them, or whether it's somebody buying a course, essentially your objective is the thing that you're buying.
Yeah.
And I liken this to with the bag of sweets, if on the front of it, it says you're going to get these particular 5 sweets in there, if you don't get them, you're not going to be very happy. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't know all that stuff, AI is never going to do the job right. AI is only ever going to be able to do for you what you put into it.
What you ask for.
So even when I'm putting stuff into it, I end up arguing with AI because I'm like, you're not listening to me. And then I realise then it's because I haven't explained or I haven't put enough into it, and then I learn from there. Mm-hmm. So what I would say one of the biggest bits is to at least have some knowledge about that, which one of the biggest things I said to you earlier is the aims and objectives and the assessment bit. Yep. So quite often I'll say to people, they might give me their training and I'll say, how do you know that they've learnt something? Oh, I gave them a quiz. I go, all right, so what's the quiz about then? Well, it's just some questions at the end. And I said, but that doesn't actually show whether they've learned. You've not taught them anything if you didn't actually ask those questions, but those questions have to tally up.
Absolutely.
So I really would urge anybody, if they are going to write training and they want it to be meaningful, that's the biggest thing. If they want it to be effective and meaningful, do it. Because it really pains me just to see constantly people talking about courses they've written, and then equally people that are selling. I've seen salespeople trying to sell how to write courses to people. And they're saying, if you just do an X, Y, and Z. And I've said to somebody once, you do know that I'm an educator? And they said, yeah, you just use AI. And I went, I had to stop myself, because I said, that's not educating people. That's literally just selling a program.
Yeah, absolutely.
For not very much money, which isn't actually education.
No.
Whatsoever. So if you want to do it right, and thankfully there are people out there that do want to do it right, I'm seeing the beauty sector seems to be improving. Mm-hmm. Again, why did that happen? Because people were starting to get hurt and dying. Absolutely. Because of not doing it right. So I don't know if you've seen a rise.
We have. I mean, the standards are rising, and it's one of our objectives is to help those organisations develop better training courses in that particular sector.
I think I see with the beauty sector is an interesting one, because people will pay. Mm-hmm. So the people that have got new salons or whatever, they will pay. And I just urge people, just look to make sure that it is accredited in some shape or form, and look into that as well.
Yes.
Because I think that's where one of the biggest problems has been, is that people don't look at what they're actually getting. They don't do that due diligence to look to see, because unfortunately people then are charging huge amounts of money. And I do a lot of research into this and I think, whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do look into the training company, but they don't look into the accreditation body behind that training company, unfortunately, and that's can cause its own problems, let's say.
Yeah, I've seen various bits recently.
Yes, that's another podcast altogether.